All right. Welcome to Fire Your Doctor episode. Are we on 23?
23.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. With my wife, Dr. Danielle Lockwood.
And my husband, Richard Lockwood.
Hi.
Hi. We're here. What are we talking about today, you ask? You didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you.
Okay, you should tell us because you're the one that wrote the outline.
Okay. We're talking about genes, heritage, and the myth of predestination. Oh, how fun.
Sounds interesting.
Yes, we're going to talk about how faith, environment, and epigenetics rewrite your story. How about that? That's going to be a good one.
I like it.
They're always a good one, actually.
We're biased.
So if you're following along with the book, we're approximately in chapter 13, which is about genetics, and we're on page 270. And the quote that really highlights the book is genetics may load the gun, but environment pulls the trigger.
I thought it was lifestyle.
Lifestyle, environment. We don't even know who actually said it. They're saying Dr. Oz said it, but anyway, he said lifestyle, Dr. Oz. Yeah. But I think you could make an argument that's generally your environment. Yes.
Okay.
But it's a reminder that our DNA is not the whole story. It's the design that's awaiting the direction. I really like that. It's the design that's awaiting direction.
Yeah. We kind of see this duality where we'll have a certain percentage of the population that ends up either bending their entire life around their genes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I was born with this, so I can't have this. And it's a Tuesday and a full moon, so I'm not going to eat gluten, but, And it just kind of bend their entire life around genetic SNPs or their 23andMe testing and all these different types of things. And to a point, let's pick foods, let's pick lifestyles that agree with us. There's also this other side that you see where people can just be so overwhelmed by all of that they just kind of look at it and just give up.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, well, everybody in my family is diabetic. Everybody's overweight. Everybody's unhealthy. I guess I'm just not going to try.
Yes. So we are talking about genes today. I will make the joke that's in the book that we're not talking about your Levi's registered trademark.
Are those cool anymore? Like, I don't know.
I don't personally wear them. I do have a pair of Levi's that I wear, but it's not my main thing.
Okay.
But we're not talking about your Wranglers either.
Okay.
We're not talking about I wear a pair of jeans that I get at Fred Meyer, a brand. I used to only be able to get them at Nordstrom Rack, but now I can get them while I'm grocery shopping.
True Religion?
No.
I don't know.
The early 2000s called, they want their jeans back. So we're not talking about those kinds of genes. We are talking about the DNA, aka the double helix.
Okay.
That is basically our internal program. If we were a computer, that would be our program telling our body what to do and how to make things and how to repair. And we inherit those to a certain extent, obviously, from our parents, our biological parents. But we're making the argument that those can be influenced. Here's the quote. Yes, certain diseases, cancer risks, and genetic traits are passed down through families, and understanding genetics has certainly advanced medical care in terms of diagnosis and prevention. But as it turns out, our knowledge of DNA has also had some unintended negative consequences. These days, people unconsciously view genetics as a religious doctrine, sort of like predestination. Predestination is a philosophy that says that humans have a fixed outcome. In theology, it's the belief that certain people are always going to heaven, others to hell, and this was always pre-decided by God or fate before the person was even born. Today, people treat DNA like some sort of scientific predestination. Great.
Yeah.
The quote here, anonymous patient, breast cancer runs in my family, so I'm taking precautions and getting a mastectomy. It's actually a conversation that we've had in our office before.
Yeah, which taking precautions and maybe getting screened, making lifestyle changes, that's one thing, but literally cutting parts off of your body
that are healthy, that
that
have
are
not shown
healthy.
signs of disease.
And that are also like, I mean, let's be real. Like for, I think most women, like their breasts are, that's God gave you those and they're attached to your body, and that to lose those isn't just kind of a, well, let's just cut off this thing that we don't need anymore. There's emotion tied to it. There's identity. There's part of your creation that's tied to that.
Yeah.
And so to even just like, well, I'm just going to cut that off. Like that's not like a light thing.
Yes. Well, we talk about in the book how the downside of learning about your DNA is that we might be tempted to treat our genetics like the word of God. In that worldview, or genetics become the inescapable fate. So if you're not a God person, you might be like, oh no, this is just my destiny. This is my fate. I can't really do anything about it. My MTHFR, my family history of cancer, therefore my cancer, therefore my heart disease, therefore my, right? Making it, again, an ownership.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and we see that. And then so basically people could lead to elective surgery and things like that to cut off parts that God gave them, even if they don't have an actual cancer diagnosis or anywhere near that. And then, on the other side, you see people that are like, we're all getting cancer anyway. I guess I'm going to smoke 2 packs a day.
Yes. So people may use it as an excuse to
stop trying.
Right. I'm not going to try. This is what happens to every member of my family. So therefore, this is what it is.
Right. But you're still just like, just kind of bowing down to some sort of like a fate or like some kind of dark prophecy in a way.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's the actual research that backs up something called epigenetics, which means above the genome or above the gene.
I've heard people go the other way. Like I've heard people actually say, well, I got good genetics. I can live poorly.
Yeah.
I've heard a few of those.
I've heard that. Well, my grandpa smoked till he was 80 and he was great.
Yeah, he's great.
Yes. We talked about this in the toxin episode, and I think that's worth visiting, which I believe was episode 22.
Yeah.
21 and 22. That being said, there is a lot of influences coming in determining how those genes are expressed, right? So your grandpa might have been smoking, but he also didn't really have exposure to, say, processed foods. He was moving his body all the time because he worked on a farm. He ate basically everything that he was able to kill and grow. There's a lot that goes into why a person...
He wasn't smoking bleach and formaldehyde. Perhaps.
Yes, maybe he was just getting good old Indian tobacco. Like right. I don't really know, but that's not like the 100% grandpa did it, so therefore I did it. By the way, just to let you know, your genes come from a combination of your mom's side and your dad's side. So if grandpa did it, he still did not have identical genes. We're going to talk about it in a second. The closest that we have to that would be twin studies and how do twins react? Nature versus nurture, who's winning? And that'll be the unicorn story that we talk about in the book. But let's go back really quick to epigenetics, which means above genetics. And it's the study of how the environment, mindset, nutrition, sleep, stress, and faith can turn genes on or off. They can turn them up or they can turn them down.
It's interesting that some of those things that you mentioned are kind of like either A, social construct, or B, they have to do with your subjective reality. Say like stress, faith, like those types of things, or your belief systems and stuff like that can actually influence your epigenetics.
Yes, I'm reminded of several studies that have proven this over and over, and this is good news for you, Richard Lockwood, which is that married men on average live longer. Why do you think that is, sweet husband of mine? For the listeners, he's making a very funny face.
Yeah. No, why is that? Because if I leave, I'll get one gunshot in the back. Like, no. No.
No.
What? Okay.
No. Who said that? No.
I don't know. No. Part of masculinity is drive and purpose beyond yourself. And without that, you'll find that even some of the most squared away, like best men you could ever be around will kind of just like implode without an external mission larger than themselves. And being married, raising a family, leaving a legacy for your children, and having like a community that you're responsible to, all of those things would lead you to make better decisions because I'm not making decisions for myself.
Right.
That's why married men would live longer.
Okay.
Like, for example, like, I don't know, going 200 miles an hour is fun. If I wasn't married and I had nothing really tying me to like make good decisions, like, why not just do that every day because it's fun?
Mm-hmm.
Like on the street at 3 a.m. Like, you know what I mean? It's just a different mindset.
Yeah. Do you think that being married helps you to be healthier, or in our case, healthier?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because I've also seen it the other way where marriages, they get comfortable and they start to...
No, it's not comfort. It's that all y'all like just... women and your kids and everybody, they want a bunch of like foo-foo stuff that you don't really need. And that like as a single man, like I was a lot leaner. I was like stronger, worked out more. And it's like the kids want to make brownies on the weekend and like let's have cookies. And then there's always like somebody's birthday. So for me, that's more of like there's been like a lot of treat traps being married. I don't know. Being single, you can also be very single-minded and disciplined on, say, like fitness and strength as performance. I mean, that's not necessarily the same as like longevity, though. So as far as like athletic performance, I was stronger, in better shape, faster runner, whatever. All of those things were better when I was single.
Yeah, you were doing like 2-hour workauts a day.
Yeah, I was jacked and it was great. And so it's like, then you guess like your daughter's like, let's make sprinkle cupcakes. And you're just like, fine, I'll have one. And then they got you. And then it's like, oh, we need to stop for tea. And I was like, I don't want to stop for tea. I don't want to stop for tea.
That was yesterday. I really needed tea.
It took a half hour.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to 2 places. And anyway, it's a whole thing. So, but like kind of see previous statement though. So there's a way that, yeah, the dad bod struggle's real. And like kids' birthday parties and sprinkles and cupcakes is real. And like that can get you as a married man.
What about emotionally?
Yeah, that's kind of the other side where it's like, okay, yeah, I'll be like 6% body fat as I'm going 200 miles an hour at 3 a.m. Like, so as far as like longevity, you could make an argument that there's like having that higher purpose of a family is going to lead you to a lot like longer term kind of decisions.
It must be something because insurance companies give you a discount when you're a man and you've been married and you're married. Yeah.
Well, my motive for being in shape when I was single was say like jiu-jitsu competition.
Right.
Where that's, you know, I want to win this competition. I want to do well. I want to do well at this race. So like my outlook was performance, not necessarily like, oh, well, I'm going to be healthy at 80.
And now you want to be healthy at 80?
I mean, when in Rome. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Whatever. We're all right. Tell me about these unicorns you like.
Yeah, let's talk about so epigenetics. Do we have a good grasp on that? Yes, we do. It's basically that we are not predestined because of the DNA that we had for good or ill. You might have a tendency to go towards those things, but it does not have to end there, which is great news. Or you have a tendency to go towards those things, and it is great news because you had very healthy parents and you'd like to repeat that pattern.
Okay, epigenetics. Imagine there's a piano in front of you. Tell me if this works. There's a piano in front of you.
Okay.
It has all these different notes. right?
Mm-hmm.
Within those notes, you can play different tones.
This does work because you said this on
And-
another podcast,
yeah.
and it is a good example.
So you could play different tones, but you could also be on the tones like, okay, here's whatever.
C minor,
Yeah, B
C
flat.
major, B flat.
Popular note in cartoon, like with the physical comedy.
Yeah, B flat.
Yeah. No, anyway. So you could decide what notes you're going to play. You can also, beyond that, decide what song you're going to play, what rhythm, what melody. And then beyond the melody, then there's harmony. And so you could almost, with a good piano player, start even getting into like, very complex choices in music and things like that played on a piano that you could also just kind of push the piano down the stairs and listen to it as it destroys itself. And so with genetics, I think of your genes, what you're given is just like, okay, there's a keyboard or there's a piano in the corner.
What are you going to do with it?
What are you going to play on it?
Yeah.
Are you going to play Diabetes? Be kind of a fun kid song.
Diabetes.
No, I know. I'm sorry, we're off topic. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, unicorns.
Yeah.
So that's epigenetics.
That's epigenetics in summary there.
Epigenetics is what you are deciding to play.
Yes. So we talk about genes and we give an example of the unicorns, and we tell a story in the book about two unicorns that were twins.
The story's made up.
The story is made up. It is, people are asking, do you really know unicorns? No, we don't. It's totally fictional. And I just want to make that clear for the record. However, we're using stories from things that we've witnessed in clinical settings to explore this example of how somebody could be the most that you could possibly be genetically similar and yet have completely different outcomes. I will read the story for you all. Two unicorns separated at birth, one raised on a beautiful organic farm outside the city, who roamed on fresh grass alongside sweet animal friends and was fed a diet of diverse organic fruits, vegetables, and grass. She was brushed and loved every day by her sweet, doting family. Unicorn 1 was adored and told how much they loved and appreciated her. She gave the grandkids rides on her back. She got plenty of exercise and fresh air. Unicorn 1 and her loving family laughed and played into the sunset. Isn't that fun? Unfortunately, Unicorn 2 led a much more tragic existence. Unicorn 2 was sold to a traveling circus.
I hate when that happens.
Where they fed her junk food scraps left over from nights of partying, cotton candy, snow cones, pizza slices, corn dogs, alcohol, and soda pop. And she was forced to perform in sweltering circus tents. When she wasn't young and fresh anymore, the circus sold her to a Las Vegas casino. That makes me laugh.
So good.
There she was caged up on display for the entertainment of tourists in a smoky Las Vegas gambling hall. I don't mean to laugh. It's awful, but it is kind of funny because we wrote it. Where she performed in windowless arenas. When she wasn't earning her owner's money, she was locked away in a high security holding area that felt like a prison. One day, the sweet family who owned Unicorn 1 found out about the terrible fate of Unicorn 2. Eventually, they raised enough money to rescue her, and on that day, Unicorn 2 arrived. Everyone was shocked to see that the identical twin didn't even look like twins at all. Unicorn 1 had a bright and shiny coat. She was muscular and had a brilliant rainbow tail, along with golden unicorn horn. Unicorn 2 was a sad grayish color. She was overweight and had, this makes me laugh, a wheezing smoker's hack. I think about a horse with a smoker's hack. It makes me laugh. When she woke up in the morning.
I want you to do the voices, though. Hey.
I'm Unicorn 2, girl.
Unicorn. I still got it.
I still got it.
They love me down in Vegas.
Yes. She had a horn, but it lost its golden color, and her rainbow tail had faded to a dull purple color. So Unicorn 1, Unicorn 2, they seem different. right? They seem different, but
It's just my genes.
they have the same genetics. We use this as an example based on the studies we're seeing with twin studies where literally people were separated at birth, and how did they fare? What portion of it was DNA and what portion of it was the environment, the input, the exercise, the lifestyle, all of those things. So let's talk more about that. Do you have, and I use, we can use our own examples of how to do it. It's just the way it is. We have genetics. I personally, I'll talk about my genetics. You can talk about yours. I have genetics where we have a tendency towards diabetes, where we have a tendency towards heart disease, where we have a tendency to gain weight very easily. These are the tendencies in my family. And, you have to list those on your health record when you're going in to see your doctor. And I've had to work against those. That means that I have to watch the amount of, for example, carbohydrates that I intake, that I do have to exercise, that I do have to be very cognizant of the amount of stress I'm taking in. I do have to get plenty of sleep in order to feel energetic and to not develop those tendencies. What say you, Richard Lockwood, about that?
She's right. No. Oh, yeah. Right now, I'm kind of maybe a bit better than kind of regular dad fit is where I'd put myself as my current fitness level. But even with that, I'm coming up on 44 years old, and in a lot of circles, I'm still an exception and not the rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like I'll do everything that I do to try and maintain that. And it's just like, oh, well, you're just skinny. And it's like, actually, kind of no. I mean, I've buried multiple relatives from diabetes. Honestly, it's a big killer in my family. And then beyond that, substance abuse, lots of substance abuse in my family.
So the tendency in your family is when you get into things, for example, like a high carbohydrate diet with breads and pastas and treats and sugar.
Treats, alcohol, anything like that
alcohol
can lead to excess very quickly.
And that you also have a family tendency for addiction issues as well.
I would consider those kind of very much related.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's the treat trap and then there's smoking. And I've seen family members that are now passed away that have yo-yoed between those two,
mm-hmm.
where it's like either we're like just donuts. And I was like, I don't want these donuts.
I do like a donut. However, it is not something that I can have regularly, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I've definitely lived that. I don't know if I'm quite as sensitive to carbohydrates as you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, somebody could say like, it's not fair. And it's also like, I don't know. I've got a long family line of alcoholics chasing me too. Mm-hmm. So in a way where are there some people out there that it's just like, hey man, I can't do the treats. Like I can't drink. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So
it's
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And so we almost have to treat these things as if, and this is language that I'll use with my patients a lot, you need to treat it almost like you're allergic to it in some ways. If you have that kind of reaction to a substance or a food, think of it as something that should be extremely limited and, or in the case of an addiction, avoided at all costs, because your tendency is to become addicted to it, or your tendency is to abuse it in some way.
Yeah. And I would say that that's becoming very, very common, particularly in America with food. And it's one of those socially acceptable addictions, I would say.
Yeah. So let's talk about SNPs. First of all, what is a SNP?
Like Sir Snips.
Like
there's a Dr. C story that nobody remembers.
Sir Snips. If you know it, put a comment in there.
He was a character in the Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins.
I think I've read that one time. I don't remember Sir Snips, so good reference. If you also remember this reference, please comment on it and we'll give you a high five. Okay, SNPs. SNP stands for single nucleotide polymorphism. polymorphism.
You got to adjust your glasses when you say that.
Nerd alert. I actually just posted on our Instagram about the nerdy things that we do. And one of them was we look up studies and discuss different things. Anyway.
Don't be on it. Speaking of addictions, don't be on Instagram.
I try not to, but that's how people know who we are, and we do what we got to do. Okay. So let's go back to SNPs. What most people love to talk about, and this irritates me just a little bit, MTHFR SNP.
I'm sick of hearing about it.
Yes. And a lot of people come in. Do you know about MTHFR? Yep.
What's that?
Yes, I do. But they act like it is the only SNP that influences your epigenetics. So let's go back. SNPs, the single nucleotide polymorphisms, an example of that would be MTHFR. There are other ones. They are the thing on your genetic code that shifts the epigenetics either on or on. They can get clogged, they can get dirtied, they can be overexpressed, they can be underexpressed, and they tell the genes then what to do. Okay, so that's what a SNP is. And it is the mechanism of how epigenetics works.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody knows about MTHFR, which has to do with folate, in the use of folate in the processing of B vitamins. We can get into what that means within the methylation cycles, and we can go very deep on that. We are not going to do that in this episode. We are going to talk about that there is hundreds of gene variations and SNPs that affect everything from detoxification to mood. So people will come in and they will say, well, I just want you to know I have MTHFR, and that is the reason that this is happening. And so they're leaning into that DNA. And I'll say, yes, I assume that most people who come into my office with some sort of disease process have some sort of clogged detoxification process. I do not ever give folic acid. I tend to use activated B complexes. I'm fully aware of it. I will talk about that in a minute, how I've gone full circle on this. But there are other SNPs. For example, something called COMT or COMT. And this affects dopamine and adrenaline breakdown. It's linked to focus, anxiety, and burnout. It has to do with the processing of estrogens in the body. I bet there's a lot of people with that. In fact, very common. And here's the problem. The kind of B vitamins that your body would like if you had the MTHFR SNP are not the kind that your body would like if you also have COMT. So you cannot look at these things as a one and done. I've got COMT. I'm going to take high levels of folate because I listened to 3 Gary Brecka episodes and Rogan told me that I needed folate. And so therefore I'm going to take it and everything should be fixed.
Let's pause for a second. So what you're saying is that you could get a narrow diagnosis of MTHFR and a narrow diagnosis of COMT, and then go to your Amazon and check out and buy kind of a supplement stack for COMT and a supplement stack for MTHFR.
Yep.
But that the combination of those two will not lead you where you want to go.
Correct.
Why is that?
They could cancel each other out, basically. So, because what's needed for COMT is different than what's needed
financially, though, won't cancel each other out, though. You're spending we'll see people that are spending several $100s a month on supplements, but they're not really getting the results. And I think this is kind of where some of that could be coming from.
Yes, and later on in the episode, we will talk about testing and how to do it and when to do it and all of that. There's other SNPs, for example. Very common GST GPX, which is critical for detoxification and antioxidant defense.
Can we just take a second and talk about some of these things, these genes? We tend to look at genes as like good or bad. And this is something that kind of Brett and Heather have talked about on their podcast a little bit. And what they'll say is they're like, well, wait a minute, these genes that kind of lead to cancer later on in life, part of the reason that those might be leading to cancer is that they have to do with cell repair, in that their cells are able to replicate faster or replace themselves faster. So that would be faster wound healing and these types of things. And so I think there's this way that we have labeled, or say somebody's like, well, I just have a tendency of obesity. And it's like, No, 500 years ago, you lived through the famine, or even 100 years ago in Soviet Russia, you lived through the famine. Your ancestors lived through the famine because you could slow your metabolism down and hang on to every little bit of the calories that you got out of the shoe leather.
Yep.
And so let's challenge this way of looking at the cards that God's dealt us as good or bad, and just be like, these things that are kind of like could lead to cancer in the wrong environment may also lead to faster healing from injury and other types of advantages.
The question isn't, are the genes good or bad? The question is,
what are we doing with it?
What are we doing with it? And is the volume on the expression of it turned up, or is it turned down? And do I want it turned up, or do I want it turned down?
Yeah, I would say, is it appropriate? Is this gene, is the expression, is the way that I am using this gene that I've been given appropriate for the situation I find myself in?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So let's talk about a couple ways when gene expression goes wrong. This is how it might show up in your body. Allergies and skin issues, mood swings, ADD, ADHD, learning challenges, gut dysfunction, weight gain or inability to maintain weight, obsessive behavior, workaholism or addiction, cardiovascular issues, cold hands and feet, headaches or migraines. These are not your destiny. They're the feedback.
Okay, sure.
So important to distinguish, oh my gosh, I have cardiovascular issues because I have MTHFR. No, you have cardiovascular issues because your lifestyle put you up for that.
Right.
And you cannot process your B's and your folate very well as a part of that, because everything got clogged because of your lifestyle.
Right. If I'm 5'3", maybe playing professional basketball isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I have this type of gene expression, maybe I cannot have a beach body and eat these types of food on a regular basis.
Yes.
So there's kind of this way that we do need to just kind of surrender to reality. But within that reality, once we have surrendered to reality, there's actually a lot more freedom than you'd think.
Yes. Who am I? What are my goals? And then what is my body made to do?
Right. And once we accept that, once we accept those limitations, there's actually a lot that you can do. And so it's like, I'm worried about like, why can't I breathe underwater like a fish, but I'm never really even exploring the land?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. We are going to go back to gene expression versus the environment. And we want to talk about the difference between the genetic blueprint and how the body reads it. Okay, so epigenetic signals are diet, toxins, stress, trauma, sleep, even spiritual alignment, all affect which genes either go active or go silent.
Well, and I guess also one of the things with epigenetics, there's our own lives, but we are also affecting our children.
Yes.
So you could have started your life with, here's your genes, and they're kind of, your genes are what they are, but in utero, or even before you were born, your parents were in a war zone, or your parents were this or that or the other thing, involved in various lifestyles. And that can also kind of start you out in a place where, to go back to my kind of piano analogy or my keyboard analogy, it's like there's a few songs that are kind of saved in the memory of that keyboard.
Yeah.
But there is still a personal agency within each of us as far as like, no, do I have to go play that song? It's pre-recorded. It's already in there. Oh, all you got to do is press play. It might be super easy to kind of accidentally play it, but you could also stop it.
This also goes into so much of what we talked about in the stress and trauma episodes, and how that we have these pre-programmed rigs, as you talked about.
Yeah. Representation that you've internalized and then you've generalized out onto the entire world.
Yes. And that those could be at play. And it's not necessarily, well, this is what is good for me, or this is what I need to do, or even this is what genetically I'm primed to do. I'm just programmed to do it.
Right. Yeah, socially programmed, emotionally programmed, even epigenetically to a point programmed.
You know, when we're talking about generational curses, generational trauma,
Yeah.
this all started to go awry when my great 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 grandmother had this issue, and then all of a sudden we started to see these things in the family. If people are versed enough to know their family history like that, sometimes we can trace it back to a generational trauma that occurred, and it just sort of stayed in that code. And
Right.
I think we're scratching the surface with that, because we're really, epigenetics has only been studied for the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years. Like, it's really new science. So that being said, there's just so much there that we don't know, because we've seen people who have absolutely transformed their body. They've transformed their mind. They've renewed themselves, and they look nothing like what they were predestined, in air quotes, to be based on whatever their genetics were. So yeah, okay, if you're 5'2", you're most likely not going to be a supermodel. Sorry, ladies, I'm 5'3" on a good day when the wind is blowing. However, could you be a doctor? Could you be something else? What really are you set up to be, not only based on your genetics, but also who you were called here to be, your identity that was given to you by your maker.
Yeah. And I would say that identity does align with physicality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your true identity will align with your physicality. And there could be some things to overcome with that. And there are many things that are kind of like great in spite of perceived weakness.
I was thinking about it today, actually, is a good example of that. I can do things that you often can't do.
What do you mean?
And you can do things that I can't do. And I'll give you an example how there was a person who was pulled over on the side of the road today, and he had his flashers on. I didn't know it was a he. It was just a car. It was during the day. I felt like I needed to kind of pull over. I didn't get out of my car or anything, and just ask him, "Are you okay?" And I think because, like, I'm a woman, I'm not some big burly dude, that wasn't intimidating. He was like, "Oh yeah, I called AAA, like, I'm good to go." Okay, great. So I was thinking about, how do I not be intimidating in this situation? I just want to make sure this person, because like literally they're stalled in the middle of the road. So it's like, do they have cell phone service? Like, do they need me to call somebody? Obviously, I'm not going to be the person like hauling them out of a ditch or anything like that. I don't have that skill. However, I'm not intimidating to the point where I could at least make sure that they're okay and call people if I need to.
I'd be more worried about your safety. Like, that's kind of where my mind goes.
I know.
Like, what are you doing talking to random dudes on the road?
You're protective. I didn't know it was a dude until I pulled up to the window, you know? But my point is like, there are things that I can do as a woman who's also just this type of woman. I'm built in this body. This is what I do. I can have conversations with people that might be more difficult for you to have. That is genetically, that's just how I was made. That is my identity. That's my call in life.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I'd probably want to send you into more of a, I don't know, what situations are you really, you're good at a lot of different situations.
I like cats. I like a cat.
Actually, I would send you in to talk to a stray cat. There we go, Rich. This is your jam.
I can do a lot of other stuff too. But
You are great at talking. You do the little, I don't even know how to do it. See? The little pss, pss.
Yeah, there's a pattern that you can like kind of talk to a cat, and like it invites them over to come like.
Okay, well, if you have a cat in the room, give him a call. Give Rich, call the cat.
Now I'm embarrassed. I don't want to do it on camera.
I don't know how you do it.
There's a couple different ones, but
there's one. So
yeah,
so
there's
yes.
one that's a cadence and it's a pattern, and it works.
He does like cats. It's true.
Yeah.
So yes, we're all built that way. I think we need to be more okay with that too.
Yeah, I mean, the elephant in the room is honestly just like man strength. I mean, and anymore, it's like there's a lot of kind of inside kids. But like, I don't know. I grew up working on a farm. Like, life was tough. And so it's just like, okay, cool. There's a lot of things I would say physically that it's like, just, you might do it once to save the kid's life kind of thing, but it's like, I don't know. You just ain't built that way. And I don't mean it bad. It's just is what it is. So I'd say like man strength and talking to cats.
It's going on your resume now.
Yeah.
He's chopping wood and talking to cats, Richard Lockwood.
Yeah, just all that kind of stuff. And
All that
well, there's
thing.
a whole physicality to it. And I think part of that is just like, you also like growing up that way. It's like there's a lot of people that just can't move their bodies like in the way to like do those types
Which
of
kind of gets
activities.
into the epigenetics thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like because from a young age you were trained to do these really hard farm labor, fix things, become
Yeah.
capable,
Yeah.
opportunities to use mechanical
The
prowess.
80s was a different time.
The 80s was a different time, as we
We're not like turning like 8 and 9-year-olds loose with chainsaws these days.
not these days, but that happened, and here we are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about testing, because I think that's the next question. Well,
All right.
Dr. Dani, I want to know if I have MTHFR. Should I go get it tested? People will ask me this all the time, and I will say it's
I don't
interesting
know.
to know. I don't necessarily need to do the testing. I will say it was probably, I don't know, circa 2015, 16, something like that, where I just really went down the genetics rabbit hole. And I was like, everything has to be genetics. Nutrition has to be based on the epigenetics. This has to happen. That has to happen. I went and got certified in genetic testing software. I looked up all the different ones. I did all these courses. I took data and put it in and took their entire genome and read it through these different programs and ran simulations to see what different supplements would do, and really just went down this absolute genetic rabbit hole for a year or two.
I guess here's the other side of that. Our God-given, and this is for everybody. There's all these people that are just like, well, I'm just not that strong-willed. It's like, oh, you are and you can be. You are and you can be. And like the human will is such a gift from God. And even if you've never used it, it's like a muscle and you can build it and you can do so much. There are people that are like, the doctor gave them the diagnosis. They got 2 or 3 months to live. They're going to die. And they just say, I'm not going down like this. And 3 months later, 6 months later, they're fighting for it. There's the guy that's like, you're never going to walk again. You're never going to do this. And like a few years later, he's like an Olympic skier or something. And we see these kinds of things where people have been dealt ostensibly like the worst hand you can get dealt in life, and they go on to do absolutely like incredible things. And so, and none of that is like, I'm not worshiping like humanity, and like that can also turn into kind of its own like kind of like self-worship and pride and your own ego and things like that. And I don't mean it in that way, but what I do mean is that we don't understand what we've been given as humans and just how strong our wills can be if you want it to be.
That's true. And I think that's actually more telling than whatever that strategy report comes back with. And the other part that you don't get from that report, even if you know if those particular DNA epigenetic SNPs are there, is you don't know what's actually being expressed until you actually look at what is present. For example, the best way that I have found to see what particular expression is happening is looking at deficiencies and looking at symptom patterns. And the truth is, that is the last thing I check on now is genetics, because more importantly, most people need to clean up their terrain. They need their landscape cleaned up with nutrition, opening up detox pathways, clearing out toxic emotions, making sure their environment is healthy, working on their relationships. That's going to give you more bang for your buck than any genetic test you can run.
I guess there's this, excuse me, there's this way that's like, what if you had a relative, your cousin or somebody like that, and they're just like, hey, can I have money? You should give me some money. And you would ask like maybe like once or twice, but then you're like, what are you doing with the money that you got? And they're just like, well, I don't know, just blah. And you're just like, that maybe they're wasting it. Maybe they're just like throwing it on the floor in their apartment. I don't know. But whatever they're doing, they're not really like using that. And in the same way, there's a lot of people that are bemoaning the genes that they have or the genes that they don't have. And there's also this way that's like, what are you doing with the genes that you already have?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you asking for something else when you're wasting what you already have?
Amen. Preach it. I love it. I have the same feeling, and I've mentioned this in other episodes about food sensitivity testing, where people really want me to run food sensitivity testing, but they're hyper reacting to everything. And I'm like, well, that report is going to tell you that you're allergic to everything because your body is so inflamed. So we always have to start with the foundation before we really can assess these things. And yes, genetic testing can be helpful, but it's way less important. Clinically experiencing this, way less important than we think it might be.
Yeah. You can get so far on just fundamentals.
Yes.
It's just like, what is the life hack to get good at doing pull-ups? And you're like,
you want to
do
know?
pull-ups. It's like, well, I need to figure out what exercises. And it's just like, buddy, it's not complicated. It's hard, but it ain't complicated.
It's hard, but it ain't complicated. I love that.
And so, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely a time for higher level testing, like the type of work that we do in the clinic. But we have told more than one person, and we're not lying, that most people could get most of the way there if they just honestly like read the book and just did what it said. And okay, sure. Hey, this one thing, maybe that ain't for you. That's fine. Whatever. I'm not here to nitpick. But the truth is that if we are aligning with these principles, most of these health problems are going to resolve themselves.
Yes. Well, we are going to land the plane here. We're going to talk about on our next episode. We'll go back into genetic testing again, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how to actually clean up those dirty genes. And we'll talk about folic acid. We'll talk about methylfolate, all those things. And so can you drift us on out with a Bible quote?
Yeah, actually, this is kind of a fun one because when you start talking about genetics, you start thinking about, well, some people are blessed and some people are cursed. And like, that's just the kind of the way it is. And so I've got this quote here that I'm going to read off my phone because I'm a Zoomer now. This is Deuteronomy chapter 5, part of verse 9 and into verse 10.
Okay.
I, the Lord, am a jealous God, and I punish the children for the sins of the parents to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but show love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. So,
snap dazzle.
In our individualist kind of American society, we can get really just, well, that's not fair. Why is God punishing like children and grandchildren and et cetera? They didn't do it. It was the grandpa that was the alcoholic or that abandoned the family or the grandma that had the drug addiction or whatever. And that's true, but we've got to pay attention to both parts of that passage, that we are going to get that fallout and that kind of punishment. Like, even if it's not your fault, it's your responsibility. It's like if I'm a parent and my kids make a mess, it ain't my fault, but it's my responsibility. And if my grandpa was an alcoholic or if my dad was an alcoholic, it's not my fault. Maybe it's my responsibility. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's my job to figure out how to end that here.
Yeah.
How can I grow emotionally? How can I not use that substance? How can I this? How can I that? How can I have a healthier relationship with these things? And so even if it's not my fault, it's my responsibility. And then the second part of that Bible passage is that those that love the Lord will be blessed to 1,000 generations. And so what it means is that if we are aligning our lives and the way we live and conduct ourselves with the truth, the more we do that, the more we are blessed. And that blessing, it's like, okay, 3 or 4 generations. Well, that's really unfair. And God's like, no, if you live with me and under my yoke, and that there's a submission there, as in I'm submitted to God, and that's going to take some things off of the table. Like I can't just go and participate in certain things. And so that's a submission, and our society hates submission. But if I submit to those things, I also get that 1,000-generation blessing.
That is great news.
Right.
We've had many conversations, Rich and I, when we first got together, and we continue to have them throughout our marriage. And it goes a little something like this. Not only is it ending with us, but we want to bless our grandchildren. We want to have a mindset of not only how do I become a great parent and a great person, but how do I become generationally great? That it matters, our legacy matters, and what we do and our choices matter. How do we get into that mindset?
Well, and even kind of like what I was saying about like, well, the reason why married men live longer is because they have things that matter more than they do. And so it's like, also when I'm looking at that, it's just like, well, wait a minute here. Well, my dad gave me a crap hand and this sucks. And it's like, yeah, so let's put that in monetary terms. That's like $3 or $4. Okay. And it sucks if you're, hey, I'm stuck. I can't even afford a bus ticket. That sucks. But on the other side of that, there's 1,000 generations of blessing. And so that's like, yeah, you know what? You might lose $3 or $4, but there's $1,000 up for grabs if you live your life right.
I love that.
So it's like,
well, and
it's not just money for you. That would be a blessing that's going to continue on.
And it goes with this idea of epigenetics. It's like, we have power here. We're not stuck in this predetermined way of being either way. Mm-hmm. We have power. We have the power to choose how we're going to react to this.
There's an element of selflessness in this too, because like somebody might counter, it's like, well, what good's 1,000 generations? I'm not going to be around on Earth and in at least human form or whatever. I'm not going to be around 1,000 years to enjoy it. So who cares? And it's like, you know what? That type of short-term thinking is how we got into this mess as a society. Mm-hmm. So it's like our forebears, the ones that have blessed us, and they're still, you know what, despite all of the faults, before us came generation after generation of people that left the world in a better place. There's this phrase that it's like, a father is going to be planting apple trees that he will never eat the fruit of. And so it's like an apple tree is like, I got like one apple off it, or no, 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And they're like almost a decade old. Mm-hmm. And so there's a way that we have to step out of this kind of selfish consumer mindset as well, where it's like, maybe I won't ever really enjoy the fruit of this, but maybe my great-grandchildren might.
Yeah. Agree. And they will benefit from the spiritual and emotional work and health choices that you're making today. And if we have that mindset, that is much bigger than just this moment. Right. And it helps us, it gives us the leverage in our minds to make that shift towards who we would really want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like it.
Great. Well, we've landed the plane, Lockwood.
Snips. Sorry.
Thank you. We'll see you next time on Fire Your Doctor.